Hey there, coin lovers! Welcome back to your go-to place for everything about coins from around the world. Today, we're going to explore a fascinating little copper coin from the Great White North, the Canada 1-cent coin from 1973. You might think it's just another penny, but there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Let's start with the design. The 1973 Canadian penny features the iconic maple leaf twig, which has been a staple on the 1-cent coin since 1937. Designed by George Kruger Gray, it showcases two maple leaves on a single twig, a proud symbol of Canada's natural heritage. Flip the coin over and you'll see the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold McKim. This is the second portrait of the Queen used on Canadian coins, showing her wearing a tiara. Did you know that 1973 was a special year for Canadian coinage? It marked the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and while that design appeared on the quarter, the regular 1-cent coin kept its usual look. Here are the specs for the 1973 1-cent coin composition: ** 98% copper, 0.5% tin, 1.5% zinc, weight ** 3.24 grams, diameter ** 19.05 millimeters. This coin is part of the pre-1982 Canadian pennies, known for their high copper content, which actually gives them a bit more intrinsic value compared to modern zinc-based cents. In 1973, the Royal Canadian Mint struck a whopping 457,061,000 of these pennies for circulation. That's nearly 500 million coins. Because of this high mintage, most 1973 Canadian pennies are very common in circulated condition, but there's a twist. A few 1973 pennies were accidentally struck using the obverse die meant for the RCMP Centennial Quarter, showing a different version of the Queen's portrait with a taller bust and beads closer to the rim. These rare varieties are extremely sought after by collectors and can sell for hundreds of dollars. So, what's the real value of a circulated 1973 Canada 1-cent coin today? In average circulated condition, it's typically worth 1 to 3 cents, just above its face value. In better preserved condition, like extremely fine, it might fetch around 5 to 10 cents. A mint state, as 63 or higher, coin can go $4/$1 to $3 CAD or more, especially if it's red and lustrous. And again, if you ever come across one of those rare obverse variety errors, you're looking at a potential value of $100 to $300 CAD or more, depending on its condition and certification. While most 1973 pennies won't make you rich, they're still a favorite among beginner collectors ***, and those completing full date sets of Canadian cents. The coin's classic design, copper composition, and place in 1970s coinage make it a neat addition to any collection. If you have rolls of old pennies lying around, take a moment to check the 1973s. You might just spot a rare variety. And that wraps up our deep dive into the 1973 Canada 1-cent coin. Let's go back in time to the early 1970s, a period of change and pride for Canada. In 1973, Canada celebrated a major milestone, the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. While the 25-cent coin, quarter, received a special RCMP design to honor this event, the 1-cent coin continued with its traditional maple leaf design. So why is this significant? Well, although the penny didn't get a special reverse design, 1973 still holds a unique place in Canadian coin history because of a minting mix-up. During production, a small number of 1-cent coins were mistakenly struck using the wrong obverse die, the one intended for the special RCMP quarter. This resulted in a rare variety of the 1973 penny, showing a high-relief bust of Queen Elizabeth II, slightly different from the standard penny obverse. These accidental strikes have become valuable collector pieces today. This time, Canada was still using pure copper-based cents, and inflation hadn't yet pushed the government to move toward cheaper metals. The 1973 penny was part of a long tradition of durable, red-hued 1-cent coins that Canadians used every day, from candy purchases to parking meters. Globally, the early 1970s were also a time of economic change. Copper prices fluctuated, and many countries, including Canada, were starting to look for ways to cut coin production costs. This makes the 1973 copper penny a nostalgic symbol of the past, when pennies were still made of real metal and carried a sense of weight and value. Today, we're diving into a fascinating little piece of Canadian coinage history, the 1982 Canada 1-cent coin. What makes it special? Is it rare? And most importantly, what is its value today if it circulated? Stay tuned to find out. The Canada 1-cent coin from 1982 may seem like just another old penny, but it tells a story of an era. Let's start with its design on the obverse side. That's the front. We see a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. This was the official portrait used on Canadian coins from 1965 until 1989. Now flip it over to the reverse side, and you'll see the famous two maple leaves on one twig, a design by G.E. Kruger. It symbolizes Canada's strength, unity, and natural beauty. This design was first used way back in 1937. The coin is made of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc, and weighs about 2.8 grams. It has a diameter of 19.05 mm and a plain edge. Here's an interesting fact. In 1982, Canada minted over 911 million of these 1-cent coins. Yes, you heard that right. More than 911 million. So they're definitely not rare in terms of how many were made. These coins were part of everyday life for Canadians during the 1980s and 1990s. They were commonly used until the Canadian penny was officially withdrawn from circulation in 2013, so while 1982 pennies aren't rare, their composition of mostly copper gives them a different kind of value, and we'll get into that next. Now let's talk about the part everyone wants to know. What is this coin worth today in circulated condition? Since this coin is made of mostly copper, it has what's called bullion value, which means its value can go up if copper prices rise. In general, a circulated 1982 Canada 1-cent coin is worth around 1 to 5 cents if sold in bulk or as part of a copper scrap lot. However, some coin dealers or online platforms may sell individual coins for 10 to 25 cents if they are in very fine or almost uncirculated condition. A certified uncirculated version, or one with an error, might fetch $1 to $5 or more, depending on the rarity and buyer demand. So, in average circulated condition, don't expect to get rich. But it's still more than face value if you consider the metal content. If you're a coin collector, here's a quick tip. Always check for errors or mint varieties. Look for things like double strikes, off-center minting, or die cracks. These errors can increase a coin's value dramatically. Also, since these are copper coins, check for toning or patina. Some collectors like that aged copper look. And remember, condition matters. A coin in mint state, MS 65 or higher, can be worth several dollars, but only if it's graded and authenticated. So there you have it. The 1982 Canada 1-cent coin, a beautiful piece of copper history that might be hiding in your old coin jar. While it may not make you rich, it's definitely worth more than 1 cent, especially to collectors and metal recyclers. The Canada 1-cent coin, commonly known as the penny, has a rich and fascinating history. By 1982, it had already been in production for over 100 years, first introduced in 1858 when Canada was still a British colony. The penny's design and metal composition evolved several times during its life. From 1920 onward, the coin began to shrink in size and change in material, reflecting global economic pressures and rising metal prices. By the 1980s, the Canadian government was under pressure to reduce the cost of coin production, especially for low-denomination coins like the 1 cent. Though the 1982 penny still contained mostly copper, this was nearing the end of an era. Just a few years later, Canada would begin switching to cheaper materials like zinc-plated steel and eventually steel with copper plating. The design of the 1982 penny reflects Canadian identity and tradition. The reverse, back, shows two maple leaves on a single twig, a symbol of Canadian pride and unity. This design was created by G.E. Kruger in 1937 and was used for decades. The obverse, front, features the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, which was used on Canadian coins from 1965 to 1989. This 1982 version is part of the Machin portrait era, making it easily recognizable to collectors. The 1982 Canada 1-cent coin was struck at the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa. That year, over 911 million coins were minted, making it one of the more common Canadian pennies in circulation. Despite its high mintage, 1982 is historically important because it marks the final years of high copper pennies. As copper prices soared in the late 1980s, the government began phasing in cheaper materials starting in 1997 and 2012. The Government of Canada announced that the 1-cent coin would be discontinued due to high production costs. It cost about 1.6 cents to make a 1-cent coin. In 2013, the penny was officially withdrawn from circulation, ending more than 150 years of Canadian 1-cent coinage. It's one of the last full copper pennies. It has a classic design loved by collectors. T represents a transition era in Canadian coinage. Whether you're a history lover, metal investor, or coin collector, the 1982 Canadian penny remains a small but meaningful artifact of the nation's monetary and cultural history. Today, we're diving into a tiny but fascinating piece of Canadian currency history. The 1996 Canada 1-cent coin. Is it just pocket change, or could it be worth more than you think? Let's find out. The 1-cent coin, also known as the Canadian penny, was a staple of everyday transactions in Canada until it was discontinued in 2013. But back in 1996, this little coin was everywhere. Made of 98% copper, 1.75% tin, and 0.25% zinc, the 1996 penny weighs 2.5 grams and measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter. Canada stopped minting the penny in 2012 due to its production cost exceeding its face value. On the obverse side of the 1996 penny, we see the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by artist Dora de Pedery Hunt. Her name and the Latin phrase D.G. Regina, which means by the grace of God, Queen, also appear. And on the reverse, we see the iconic maple leaf twig, designed by G.E. Kruger Gray. This image has been on Canadian pennies since 1937 and symbolizes national pride. In 1996, the Royal Canadian Mint produced 673, 512, 0001 coins. Yes, that's over 673 million. That means it's a fairly common coin, especially in circulated condition. Keep an eye out. Some 1996 coins may have slight variations or off-center strikes, which could slightly increase value. So what's it worth today in circulated condition? Well, most 1996 Canada 1-cent coins are only worth their face value, 1 cent. However, if it's in good shape, collectors may offer 2 to 5 cents for it. Not much, right? But don't toss it just yet. Store your coins in a clean, dry place to preserve their condition. If you have an uncirculated or mint-state 1996 penny, meaning it's in nearly perfect condition without any wear, its value could rise. Coins graded MS-63 to MS-65 can sell for around $0.50 to $2 CAD, depending on the market. Consider getting your best coins graded by a professional service like ICCS or PCGS to increase collector interest. Though it's not rare or extremely valuable, the 1996 penny holds sentimental value for many Canadians. It represents a time before the digital age, when physical change still mattered in daily life. It's a piece of history, a story in copper. If you're collecting Canadian cents, make sure to collect every year from 1920 to 2012. Try to find both circulated and uncirculated versions. And always check for errors. Misstrikes, doubling, or off-metal errors can boost value significantly. So to recap, your 1996 Canada 1-cent coin is common, with over 673 million minted. In circulated condition, it's worth around 1 to 5 cents, but if you find a pristine uncirculated piece, you might get up to $2 or more from the right collector. Thanks for joining us on this coin collecting journey. If you enjoyed learning about the 1996 Canada penny, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video from. And let us know in the comments. Do you have a 1996 Canadian penny? Until next time, keep collecting, keep discovering, and remember, every coin has a story.